Uyacı Mustafa. Kimseye kendini ezdirmeye hiç.
Sus baba.
Yetimdir bu abi, yetim. Yetimler ne olur?
Gör bak neler olur.
Mustafa Kemal's journey, which began with his graduation from the War Academy as a brilliant staff captain, was shaped not only by military achievements, but also by arduous struggles filled with patriotism and a love for freedom. In 1905, young Mustafa Kemal and his friends, concerned about the direction of the country, drew the attention of Sultan Abdul Hamid II's administration due to activities such as discussing liberal ideas and even secretly publishing a newspaper. Perhaps the thought he harbored in those days, in a country without liberty, there is death and destruction. Liberty is the mother of all progress and salvation, led him to take these dangerous steps. However, due to a denunciation by a trusted acquaintance, their homes were raided, and Mustafa Kemal spent approximately 2 months imprisoned in the Bekira division. Although this event deeply saddened his mother, Zubeyda Hanım, for Mustafa Kemal, it was the first price he paid for his future struggle, and perhaps the experience that laid the foundation for his words. There are no desperate situations, only desperate people. I never lost hope. After his release from prison, he was deemed dangerous due to his political ideas and virtually exiled to the Fifth Army in Damascus, far from the center. The stagnant conditions of Damascus, after the vibrant environments of Istanbul and Thessaloniki, did not daunt him. On the contrary, he closely observed the problems in this remote corner of the empire, the conflicts among Arab tribes, and the weaknesses of the administration. Acting on the principle, he who loves his country most is he who performs his duty best, he secretly founded the Homeland and Freedom Society with his trusted friends. This was the first step demonstrating his potential not only as a soldier, but also as an organizer and political leader. The Damascus years were an important period for him to mature his ideas and prepare the ground for his future actions. Upon his return to Thessaloniki, he joined the Committee of Union and Progress, but vehemently opposed the army's involvement in politics. His speech at the 1909 Congress, where he stated, "As long as members of the army remain within the society, we cannot establish a party based on the nation. Let us separate the army and the society. The army should also focus on its primary duty," created a rift between him and the leading members of the committee, especially Enver Pasha. Mustafa Kemal's journey, which began with his graduation from the War Academy as a brilliant staff captain, was shaped not only by military achievements, but also by arduous struggles filled with love for his homeland and a passion for freedom. In 1905, young Mustafa Kemal and his friends, concerned about the state of the country, drew the attention of Sultan Abdul Hamid II's administration due to activities such as discussing liberal ideas and even publishing a secret newspaper. Perhaps the thought he harbored in those days, in a country without freedom, there is death and destruction. Freedom is the mother of all progress and salvation, had led him to take these dangerous steps. However, due to a tip-off from a friend they trusted, their homes were raided, and Mustafa Kemal spent approximately 2 months imprisoned in the Bekira precinct. Although this event deeply saddened his mother, Zubeyda Hanım, for Mustafa Kemal, it was the first price for his future struggle, and perhaps an experience where the foundations of his saying, "There are no hopeless situations, only hopeless people. I never lost hope," were laid. After his release from prison, deemed dangerous due to his political ideas, he was virtually exiled, far from the center to the Fifth Army in Damascus. After the vibrant environments of Istanbul and Thessaloniki, the stagnant conditions of Damascus did not daunt him. On the contrary, he closely observed the problems in this remote corner of the empire, the conflicts among Arab tribes, and the weaknesses of the administration. Acting on the principle, he who loves his country most is he who performs his duty best, he secretly founded the Homeland and Freedom Society, Vatan ve Hürriyet Cemiyeti, with his trusted friends. This was the first step that demonstrated his potential to be not only a soldier, but also an organizer and a political leader. The Damascus years were an important period for maturing his ideas and preparing the ground for his future actions. Upon his return to Thessaloniki, he joined the Committee of Union and Progress, Ittihat Veteraki Timieti, but he vehemently opposed the army's involvement in politics. His speech at the 1909 Congress, "As long as army members remain within the society, committee, we cannot establish a party based on the nation. Let us separate the army and the society. Let the army focus on its primary duty," strained his relations with the leading figures of the committee, notably Enver Pasha. According to him, soldiers should remain in their barracks, as involvement in politics corrupted discipline and was one of the main reasons for the defeat in the Balkan Wars. This clear stance prompted those who wished to remove him from the center of politics and the army to act. Consequently, he was appointed to the post of military attaché in Sofia, 1913, an assignment which appeared brilliant on paper, but was, in reality, a form of political exile. The appointment of his close friend, Ali Fethi Okyar, as ambassador to Sofia, and his request for Mustafa Kemal to join him, provided some measure of protection during this period. The Sofia years offered Mustafa Kemal the opportunity to become closely acquainted with European diplomacy, the parliamentary system, different cultures, and social life. He attended operas and balls, followed the proceedings of the Bulgarian parliament, and established contacts with foreign diplomats. While this period increased his interest in Western civilization, it also allowed him to gather ideas for his future reforms. However, when World War I broke out, being away from his homeland and the front lines weighed heavily on him. He repeatedly wrote to Enver Pasha, requesting a position at the front. "There is no duty more important or sacred than the defense of the homeland. I cannot stay in Sofia while my comrades are fighting at the front," he practically begged. Although his requests went unanswered for a long time, his persistence and the course of the war would eventually lead him to Gallipoli and ensure his return to the stage of history in a much stronger position. These years of exile and maturation showed how he developed his determination, observational skills, organizational abilities, and political vision, as if to confirm his words, "We need nothing, only one thing, to be hardworking." The Gallipoli Front, the leader who changed the course of history. Mustafa Kemal's persistent requests finally yielded results, and in early 1915, he was appointed commander of the newly formed 19th Division in Tekirdağ. This marked the end of his exile-like assignment in Sofia. Upon arriving in Gallipoli, the inexperience of the unit under his command and the weakness of the existing defense plans worried him. He vehemently opposed the strategy of German General Lyman von Sanders, commander of the Fifth Army, which was "let the enemy land, we will meet them inland." In meetings, citing his experience in Tripoli, Libya, he objected, saying, "We must hold the coast firmly. We must not let the enemy land. What if the landing force is too strong for us to repel?" However, Sanders, due to his own strategic calculations, to keep the British bogged down away from Europe, did not heed these objections. On the morning of April 25, 1915, when the Allied powers landed at Araburnu, Mustafa Kemal's foresight was painfully confirmed. Without receiving orders from his own commander, and despite his unit being a reserve force, he seized the initiative upon seeing the critical nature of the situation. With the 57th Regiment under his command, he moved like lightning to Konkbayır'a, Chunuk Bayır. Stopping the retreating soldiers, he gave his historic order, "I am not ordering you to attack, I am ordering you to die. In the time it takes us to die, other forces and commanders can take our place." This order and the subsequent bayonet charge halted the enemy's advance and changed the fate of the battle. Although this action was militarily an act of insubordination, the salvation of the homeland was paramount to him. When Lyman von Sanders learned of the situation and asked Mustafa Kemal what he was doing, upon receiving his reply and the warning, "If you do not place all units under my command, the situation will be a disaster," he was forced to place all forces in the area under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Mustafa Kemal. Thus, Mustafa Kemal suddenly took command over officers senior to him and became the Anafartalar Group commander. Conducting the Gallipoli defense like an orchestra conductor, he repelled the enemy multiple times. The strategic disagreements he had with Lyman von Sanders and this extraordinary situation in the chain of command demonstrated how critical Ataturk's personal initiative and military genius were in winning the battle. Gallipoli became living proof of his words. Victory belongs to those who can say, "Victory is mine." Success belongs to those who start by saying, "I will succeed," and finally say, "I have succeeded." He explained the secret of victory with the words, "Our nation has succeeded because it has shown unwavering unity in its actions and efforts." The national struggle. They shall go as they came. The end of World War I was the beginning of an even more challenging struggle for Mustafa Kemal Pasha. After the armistice of Mudros, when the Yildirim army group was disbanded, he was forced to return to Istanbul. When he arrived at Haydarpaşa Station on November 13, 1918, the sight that greeted him was heartbreaking. The Bosphorus was filled with enemy warships. The ships he had not allowed to pass at Gallipoli were now anchored in the heart of the city. Seeing the distress of his aide-de-camp, Cevat Abbas, he voiced his unforgettable determination. They shall go as they came. This statement was not just a consolation, but the first sign of the national struggle that was to begin. During his approximately 6 months in Istanbul, while on one hand evaluating the situation by contacting the occupiers and the palace, on the other hand, he made plans to cross into Anatolia. When his meetings with Sultan Vahdettin yielded no results, he became convinced that salvation lay in Anatolia. Upon the British plans to occupy the region using the Greeks in the Black Sea as a pretext, he saw the post of Inspector of the Ninth Army, which was assigned to him, as an opportunity to initiate the national resistance. He set out saying, "The independence of the nation will again be saved by the determination and decision of the nation itself." His landing in Samsun on May 19, 1919, via the steamship Bandırma, marked the de facto beginning of the War of Independence. Through the Hafsa and Amasya circulars, he called the nation to resistance. With the Erzurum and Sivas Congresses, he united the scattered resistance groups under a single banner. When debates over mandates and protectorates flared up at the Sivas Congress, he declared his uncompromising stance on full independence by saying, "Either independence or death." His words to American General Harbord, "Rather than be condemned to a slow, ignominious death like a bird falling into the claws of imperialists, we, as sons of our fathers, prefer to die fighting," reflected the character of the Turkish nation. Despite all the obstructions by the Istanbul government and the occupying forces, and threats such as dismissal from duty and death warrants, he did not falter. By opening the Grand National Assembly of Turkey in Ankara, he established the sovereignty of the national will. With the principle, sovereignty belongs unconditionally to the nation, he laid the foundations of a new state. The early days in Ankara were the most challenging and uncertain times of the national struggle. Scarcity was extreme, and the enemy's advance caused anxiety. Under these difficult conditions, despair had begun to appear among some deputies, and the idea of leaving Ankara and returning to their hometown started to spread. At this very critical moment, while a deep sense of pessimism prevailed in the assembly, Mustafa Kemal Pasha took the rostrum. With unwavering faith and determination manifested not just in his words, but in his entire being, he delivered that historic speech. "Gentlemen, I have heard that some friends, using our poverty as an excuse, wish to return to their hometowns. I did not invite anyone to the National Assembly by force. Everyone is free in their decision. I do not have the right to interfere. As a person who believes in the sacred cause, I have decided not to go anywhere from here. Indeed, you may all leave. Soldier Mustafa Kemal will take his Mauser in his hand, array his cartridges on his chest, take his flag in the other hand, and in this manner, go up to Elmadao. There, I will defend the homeland until my last bullet. When my bullets are gone, I will wrap this humble body of mine in my flag, be wounded by enemy bullets, and give my life alone, feeding my sacred flag with my pure blood. I have sworn an oath to this." As these words echoed in the assembly, they rekindled the fading hopes, encouraged the hesitant, and reinforced faith in the national struggle. This stance of Ataturk showed once again that leadership is not just about strategy and giving orders, but also about keeping hope alive even in the most difficult moments, and setting an example with one's dedication. Amidst scarcity, he established a regular army. Epic victories were won at İnönü, Sakarya, and Dumlupınar. Despite falling from his horse and breaking a rib during the Battle of Sakarya, his refusal to leave the front is one of the most striking examples of his love for his country and his leadership qualities. Wounded, he continued to direct the battle from a stretcher and gave his famous order, "There is no line of defense. there is a surface of defense. That surface is the entire homeland. This order changed the course of the war. Before the Great Offensive, by giving his armies the order, "Armies, your first target is the Mediterranean. Forward." He paved the way to victory. Starting with his words in Istanbul, "They shall go as they came." This process, encompassing his landing in Samsun, the congresses, the opening of the assembly, and the victories won, is a unique story of struggle that shows Ataturk never gave up on his passion for independence and his faith in his nation, despite all hardships. His words, "We Turks, throughout our history, have been a nation that has symbolized freedom and independence," summarize the spirit of this struggle. Post-Republic, the struggle continues in final years. With the proclamation of the Republic, the struggle had not ended. The assassination attempt planned against him in Izmir in 1926 exposed the political tensions and score settling within the young republic. This event also led to a rift with some of his former comrades in arms with whom he had fought shoulder to shoulder in the War of Independence. After this ordeal, Ataturk reaffirmed his unwavering commitment to the Republic by saying, "My humble body will one day turn to dust, but the Turkish Republic will stand forever." Besides political turmoil, especially towards the late 1930s, his health began to deteriorate seriously. Despite being diagnosed with cirrhosis and doctors' insistence that he rest, he never neglected state affairs. The Hatay issue in particular had become a personal matter, a matter of honor for him. His words addressing the public during his Adana trip, "The 40-century-old Turkish homeland cannot remain captive in enemy hands," demonstrated his unwavering determination on this issue. As his illness progressed, he displayed an even more impatient and determined attitude, and frequently suffered from nosebleeds. His illness had advanced, and he found it difficult to stand. During his trips to Mersin and Adana in 1938, despite doctors forbidding him to stand for more than 10 minutes, he saluted the military parade standing for hours. His refusal of his aide, Kılıç Ali's request to salute while seated, by saying, "Since when is the Turkish army saluted while sitting?" was an unforgettable moment, demonstrating his deep respect for military discipline and his army, disregarding his own health. However, these trips irreversibly affected his health. His patience was running out for a diplomatic solution to the Hatay issue. In December 1937, the Council of Ministers convened on this matter, and even military plans were discussed. In this tense atmosphere, Syrian Prime Minister Cemil Mardam came to Ankara. In the meeting on December 21, 1937, Ataturk told Mardam that Turkey desired Syria's full independence, but France was obstructing it. He expressed his clear stance on Hatay with these words, "Syrians and Turks are friends. Syrians do not have an army, but our army is sufficient. I promise, if necessary, I will enter and then leave again. I hope we are not forced to do this, but I will absolutely not give it up. Hatay." Behind this diplomatic standoff lay the following statements, showing how much personal importance Ataturk attached to this cause. "I am not eager to expand territory, nor do I have a habit of breaking peace. However, I am a claimant of our right based on an agreement, and I cannot fail to obtain it. From the rostrum of the Grand National Assembly, I promised my nation, I will take Hatay. My nation believes what I say. If I do not keep my word, I cannot face them. I cannot remain in my position. I have never been defeated, I will not be defeated. If I am defeated, I cannot live for a minute." Even as his health problems worsened, he did not abandon the Hatay cause and personally directed the diplomatic struggle against France. He had even seriously considered the option of resigning from the presidency for this cause and continuing the struggle stripped of his official titles. He had not hesitated to share his thoughts on this matter with his close circle and trusted commanders. Indeed, General Fahrettin Altay, in his memoirs, recounts a meeting with Ataturk at the Park Hotel in January 1937 as follows. He finds Ataturk in a troubled state, approaches him as he is watching the Marmara from the balcony, and expresses concern that he might catch a cold. Ataturk then turns to him and says, "Pasha, do you know? I will resign from the presidency and become a guerrilla leader in Hatay." This was not just a fleeting thought. Ataturk had further detailed this plan. In another conversation, he stated, "As a free Turkish citizen, I will cross into Hatay territory with friends working on this cause. As you know, there are always possibilities and very secure ways for this. I will try to resolve the matter on the ground and from within, with the Mujahideen there and forces that I have no doubt will flee the motherland to join us. If it wishes, the Turkish government can declare me and my friends rebels and even prosecute us. These words and thoughts are the most striking proofs of Atatürk's personal dedication, audacity, and readiness to make the greatest sacrifices if necessary to annex Hatay to the motherland. During the most severe stage of his illness, even while receiving treatment on the Savarona yacht, he continued to follow the Hatay cause. When his patience ran out with France's delaying tactics, he called Dolmabahce Palace one midnight and gave his Secretary General Hasan Reza Soyak the following definitive order. Soyak, contact the Ankara government immediately. The day after tomorrow, the Turkish army will enter Hatay. This is my absolute order. Although this order seemed contrary to diplomatic protocols, it yielded results thanks to Atatürk's determination and the efforts of Ambassador Suat Davaz in Paris. The French government agreed to the Turkish army's entry into Hatay without intervention. Thus, Atatürk, from his sickbed, initiated the process of Hatay's annexation to the motherland with a final diplomatic move. His final months were spent at Dolmabahce Palace, during a period when his illness was progressively worsening. Although his body weakened day by day, his consciousness was clear, and he continued to follow state affairs. Despite all treatment efforts, the great leader Gazi Mustafa Kemal Atatürk passed into eternity at 9:05 a.m. on Thursday, November 10, 1938. On that day in Dolmabahce Palace, it was not just a leader but, as it were, the heart of a nation that had stopped. The news of his passing was met with great sorrow throughout the country and the world. This tragic news deeply shook those who were devoted to him. So much so that one of his closest comrades in arms since the War of Independence, Mehmet Arif Bey, known by the nickname Ayuchu, the Bear Man, unable to bear the immense grief upon hearing the news of Atatürk's death, took his own life. This tragic event painfully highlights Atatürk's place among his comrades in arms and in the eyes of the nation, and the profound void created by his loss. Legacy: a life dedicated to the nation. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk was not only a state founder and commander, but also a unique patriot who dedicated everything he possessed to his nation. He did not view the assets he acquired after the War of Independence as personal wealth. With the understanding, there is no ruling over the nation, there is serving it. He who serves this nation becomes its master, leader. While still alive, in 1933, he made an unprecedented decision in the world. Reserving the rights of his sister Makbule Hanım, his heir according to the civil code, he announced to the assembly his intention to donate all his assets to the Turkish nation. Although there were legal hesitations initially, in the face of Atatürk's insistence and his love for his nation, his wish was legally secured by a special law enacted on June 12, 1933. Although he initially considered leaving his assets to the Republican People's Party, Cumhuriyet Halk Partisi, seeing during the attempts to transition to a multi-party system that this might be unfair to other parties, he decided to donate all his assets directly to the treasury, meaning to the Turkish nation. His will, announced after his death, confirmed this decision and particularly secured the future of national institutions such as the Turkish Historical Society, Türk Tarih Kurumu, and the Turkish Language Association, Türk Dil Kurumu. This act was a concrete expression of his words. My humble body will one day turn to dust, but the Turkish Republic will stand forever. Atatürk's legacy is not only the republic he founded and the reforms he carried out, but also his ideas, principles, and a life dedicated to the nation, as expressed in his words. To see me does not necessarily mean to see my face. If you understand and feel my ideas, my emotions, that is enough. He also emphasized his faith in and entrustment to the youth by saying, "O rising new generation, the future is yours. We founded the Republic. It is you who will elevate and sustain it." Although his body has departed from us, his ideas and works continue to illuminate the path of the Turkish nation.